It had been a very hot summer, and the small farm dam was drying out, and there was very little water, so the local ducks did a reconnaissance flight to find a better place with more water. Now, the ducks could easily fly to another place, but what about their friend, Frankie the Frog? Frankie came up with a great idea. The ducks would pick up a stick in their mouths and fly in parallel, and then Frankie could hang on to the stick with his mouth. And then together they would fly him to the new dam, and everyone would get through that hot summer. So that's what they did. As they were flying, a farmer working out in his paddock happened to look up, and he noticed these two ducks, stick in the mouths, with the frog hanging on to that stick. "Well," the farmer said out loud, "isn't that a clever idea? I wonder who thought of that." The frog called out, "I did." Now, this story clearly illustrates that pride comes before a fall. This week, as we continue with the Beatitudes, we look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. "Blessed are those who are humble, for they shall inherit the whole earth." John Chrysostom, who was a pastor and theologian based in Antioch many years ago in the early days of the Christian church, said this: "Humility is the mother, the root, the nurse, the foundation and the centre of all other virtues." In other words, humility is where every other facet of our lives actually begins. The Apostle John writes in 1 John chapter 2 verse 6, "Whoever claims to live in Jesus must live as he did." So when we walk humbly with God, our life will demonstrate the characteristics that are actually apparent in God himself. The evidence of our walk will be witnessed by our acts of kindness, mercy, compassion, justice, and so on. Of course, the other side of the coin, as it were, then becomes apparent. That we feel like we're the ones responsible for those qualities that we have. And then we're not walking humbly with God. We're thinking about ourselves. In the days in which we live, we're surrounded by a real me mentality. It's all about me. Some call it a disease. Me-itis. It's my life. It's my money, my possessions, my relationships, my focus, my decision, my church, my needs must be met. It's all about me. The truth is, when we walk humbly with our God, it changes and it becomes his money, his possessions, his relationship, his focus, his decision, his church, his will to be met. It changes from us to being about God. Sometimes we can be tricked into thinking that humility means to think less of yourself. S. Craig Clickman, he's a Christian author, he wrote this: "Humility is not thinking less of yourself than you really are, nor is humility always talking about your faults, nor your shortcomings as compared to everyone else. You might think that others are superior and that you don't have any achievements. Humility is simply a recognition of the truth about ourselves, and then most often a forgetfulness of self that allows for genuine concern for others and a genuine worship of God. It's not all about us. Consider this. Every Christian has a choice between being humble or being humbled. Perhaps this story explains it better than I. One of Charles Spurgeon, that great preacher, one of his students stepped into a pulpit with every expression of confidence, but he had an extremely difficult time in that pulpit. In fact, he came down quite distressed, almost broken-hearted, and he went on to chat with Spurgeon about the way he felt and about what happened. Spurgeon said this to him: "If you'd gone up as you came down, you would have come down as you went up." As we go into this week, Focus not upon yourself with your own qualities, rather upon a good God who supplies our every need. Have a wonderful week.